David Stern
For
with the
their
announcement.
first pick, select
Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Patrick Ewing.
With the third pick in the 2014 NBA Draft,
The Houston Rockets select
the Philadelphia 76ers select
Hakeem Olajuwon.
Joel Embiid.
The NBA used to be a land of the giants, full of dominant big men who either use finesse and footwork to beat you, or athleticism and straight drive. You could look at every team in the NBA, and for the most part, you'd see a 7-footer down low. Nowadays, the NBA has turned into a very fast-paced, run-and-gun league, which is really fun to watch, honestly. With players like Steph Curry and Damian Lillard taking shots from 30 feet plus, and teams emphasizing three-point shooting, you're bound to see somebody go off almost every night. And the scores that these teams are putting up are pretty crazy. And this is opposed to back in the day, where you've seen teams running their offense to the post and letting big men work. There were a handful of teams who really made it an emphasis to pound the ball inside and were successful to the point of winning a championship. You don't see it for the most part today if you turn on an NBA game, but if you look closely, you'll see an evolution of it. And maybe there isn't an overstock of dominant big men like there used to be, but there is a few, very specifically 2 of them, that have been giving me flashbacks of a rivalry nearly 20 years ago. And to be completely transparent, I wasn't alive for it. But looking back at it, Patrick Ewing and Hakeem Olajuwon both became Hall of Famers. And on the way there, they matched up numerous times, giving us some classic games, and also even met at the pinnacle, where one was able to hold his head high, and at least for that year, cement themselves as the better player in the rivalry. Giannis Antetokounmpo and Joel Embiid are on their way to making a case for being some of the best big men of all time, and have made it very apparent that along with Jokic, who's putting up ridiculous numbers, the big man position isn't dead. It's actually very far from it. I'll go one step further to even say these two are sparking a rivalry that maybe isn't too emotionally charged, but looking at the straight basketball between these guys, it's giving me a feeling that we're seeing a matchup that has an uncanny similarity to the nimble-footed and extremely skilled Hakeem against the stalwart down low and absolute paint beast Patrick Ewing. Back in 2013, Giannis was drafted 15 overall, and some of those players drafted ahead of him were the complete bust Anthony Bennett, Victor Oladipo, who went on to have a solid career and is still going pretty strong, Otto Porter Jr., Cody Zeller, Alex Len, what happened to that guy, Nerlens Noel, who's a valuable role player still, Ben McLemore, who came out as a great shooter, KCP, Trey Burke, who's currently in the G League, and CJ McCollum, who, to be fair to him, has turned into a very solid player who is a bona fide scorer, who along with Zion have the Pelicans just nearly in the playoff picture.
The rookie coming in from Milwaukee, Antetokounmpo. I'll try and say that the same way every time tonight, but he is quite a story. He's not even 19. He's 19 next month. He's from Greece.
Coming in, Giannis was considered a year away from being a year away. He wasn't that polished as a scorer or a shooter, but the pure talent was there, and you could see his gifts. At first, the Bucks struggled and barely made it into the playoffs, but the Bucks have done a good job at surrounding Giannis with shooters and players such as Chris Middleton and Brook Lopez, who offensively and defensively can take a little load off of him. Nowadays, he's dominant down low, a 2-time MVP and a defensive player of the year. When you go into the paint, you really hope Giannis isn't down there. When you look at Patrick Ewing, he was the #1 pick, and coming into the league, there was expectations, and he met them. He was the rookie of the year and cemented himself as somebody that was dominant down low and that teams had to be weary of if they went to the paint. Him and Giannis are very similar in the way that they played. Of course, Giannis is a modern take to what Patrick Ewing was doing, but Ewing did most of his dirt down low and set a tone for his team. He also had moments that inspired his team.
Right ankle, Patrick heroically lifts the Knicks to a victory in the 92 playoffs.
Like when Giannis injured his knee in the Eastern Conference Finals and eventually took his team to the finals, ending the Bucks' 50-year drought of not winning a championship.
The Bucks have done it. The long wait has ended. After a half century, the Milwaukee Bucks are NBA champions once again. The emotions come pouring out. One of the greatest nights in Milwaukee sports history ends in a coronation. And the brilliance of the young man from Athens.
So yes, they had very different entrances into the league, but ultimately they both became beasts down low who made the paint theirs. And no matter what you think of Giannis, such as the infamous quote from James Harden, if you have such a big problem with what Giannis is doing and that it takes no skill, then stop it. Just like Patrick Ewing back in the day, they're gonna go out there and set a tone for their team. And when you look at both of their career averages, Giannis is averaging 22, 9, and 4, along with a block per game. And Patrick Ewing is giving you 21, 9, and 2.4 blocks a game. Both of them weren't putting up the craziest scoring numbers, but could go off for a ton of points any night just by making the paint theirs. If Giannis keeps this pace up, he might be even better. And I've always thought that it could even make a case for being the GOAT at some point.
There's a perfect example on Embiid, nodding his head down the other end, impressed with the 76ers start. He can do so many different things. Again, for a guy his size, they lift him to 7 feet.
Taking a look back at Joel Embiid, he was the third pick of his draft class, behind Andrew Wiggins and Jabari Parker. Andrew Wiggins at first was looking a little shaky and that he might be a bust, but he's found his role in Golden State and has gotten himself a championship. He's also become a pretty good defender, and on any other team, he could be a solid third or second option, in my opinion. Jabari Parker was unfortunately cursed with the injury bug. When he was on the court, he looked special and like somebody that could be a building block for Giannis. But ultimately, Jabari isn't in the league anymore, and Andrew Wiggins is a solid, high-tier role player for the Golden State Warriors. But when you look at Joel Embiid, he was injured a lot in the beginning of his career, and Philadelphia and him coined the term trust the process, which we didn't know how far or how long the quote-unquote process would take. Michael Carter-Williams was taken before Joel Embiid, and at first they thought that he could be a solid building block, but it didn't turn out too well. And then we get into Ben Simmons. What can I say? Ben Simmons' upside was supposed to be LeBron level, and he was supposed to be the second star that helps Joel Embiid bring a championship to Philly. But as we all know, that's not how it went. And Ben Simmons is now giving you a solid single-digit performance almost every night for the Nets. After that, they brought in Jimmy Butler, which took them to the playoffs for a little bit, and it seemed like Embiid and him had something good going. I think they're still friends, and I don't know why that didn't work out. Sometimes Jimmy Butler's style of play doesn't mesh well with other coaches or teams. And now we come to the present day, where the Sixers actually have a decent collection of guards. They have James Harden, who, yeah, he isn't the player that he used to be, but he's still a good initiator, and if you sleep on him, he'll give you a big point performance. They also have Tyrese Maxey, who is an awesome offensive player, and he's so exciting to watch, and I think it gives them a guard that they can build around in the future. The 76ers are currently second in the East, and Joel Embiid has taken them from a bottom of the barrel team to a championship contender this year. When you look at Joel Embiid's stats, he's giving you 26, 11, and nearly 2 blocks a game for his whole career. He's an extremely skilled big man who can score from 3, mid-range, post, and is even pretty good at passing. He's had gaudy performances when it comes to points.
The 5th most points in a game in Sixers franchise history.
And offensively, I think he's better than Jokic. Yes, Jokic has the passing, but Embiid has a mix of athleticism and skill that really reminds me of Hakeem Olajuwon. When you look at Hakeem's career averages, he gave you 21 points, 11 rebounds, and 3 blocks per game. And when I talk about Joel Embiid reminding me of Hakeem, both of them are extremely skilled big men that were really leagues above some of their peers. Both of them also had really good athleticism, but only showed it when they needed to. Embiid seems like he's just jogging around sometimes, but don't get it mistaken. This guy has hops, he's got strength, and he's got speed, just like Hakeem. But instead of just forcing themselves into the paint or forcing themselves into a bucket, they prefer to use their skill and finesse and just overall talent. Whenever these two behemoths meet, Giannis and Joel Embiid always go at it. And like I said before, it may not be emotionally charged, but both of them love going at each other when it comes to basketball. If Embiid gets a bucket on Giannis, Giannis is looking to get a bucket straight on Embiid's head right back. And when these two teams play each other, it really relies on who's going to be better. I could see these two playing each other in the Eastern Conference Championship and giving us some classics along the way. Don't blink or you might miss one of the biggest big men rivalries in the past 30 years. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and let me know if you're interested in these type of comparisons in the future. Have a great day, and no matter what you're doing in life, don't smoke the layup.